Anybody want to read my email?
No.
No? You have enough of your own? Yeah? Yeah? Are you sure? I see. This is... Okay, shall we start?
Yes, let's make a start.
Cool. Probably make that full screen. I'll work out to do it as you talk.
Okay. So, firstly, thank you for inviting me here. This is the most impromptu invited talk that I think I've ever given. My name is Bob Laramie. I'm in the School of Computer Science, and I'm the head of the VizTag group. That's Visualization, Text Analytics, and Graphics group. It's a new group, actually. Started just like 1 to 2 years ago. And before I forget, if anybody is interested in collaborating on a visualization project, because I've heard that there are people here interested in visualization, feel free to let me know. Yeah. So, how to start? So, I teach a class called Research Methods. I have taught several data visualization classes too. But in the Research Methods class, there is an assessed coursework on data visualization. And so in the standard, say, data visualization coursework, we just find a random data set to basically demonstrate proof of concepts, right? And we ask the students to perform a bunch of tasks on a random, not so relevant data set. But when I teach the class, I try to find some data that I think is relevant. And I was trying to think of something this year, different from last year. And I thought, okay, what could we study that's relevant? And this is the topic that I chose, actually, the effects of food choice on the environment. So I spent a number of hours looking for an open data set that was related to this topic, the effects of food choice on the environment. And after multiple hours of searching, I finally found one. I found a good one. Right? So I'll show it. That's the only slide that we have today. This is the research paper, and associated with this research paper is the data set. So the name of the paper is called Vegans, Vegetarians, Fish Eaters, and Meat Eaters in the UK Show Discrepant Environmental Impacts. Let's see. And this is what the abstract looks like. Modeled dietary scenarios often fail to reflect true dietary practice and do not account for variation in the environmental burden of food due to sourcing and production methods. Here we link dietary data from a sample of 55,000 vegans, vegetarians, fish eaters, and meat eaters with food level data on greenhouse gas emissions, land use, water use, eutrophication risk, and potential biodiversity loss from a review of 570 life cycle assessments covering more than 38,000 farms in 119 countries. Our results include the variation in food production and sourcing that is observed in the review of life cycle assessments. All environmental indicators showed a positive association with amounts of animal-based food consumed. Dietary impacts on vegans were 25% uncertainty interval, and then they talk about the uncertainty and the standard deviations and in the other results. At least 30% differences were found between the low and high meat eaters for most indicators. Despite substantial variation due to where and how food is produced, the relationship between environmental impact and animal-based food consumption is clear and should prompt the reduction of the latter. So that was a mouthful. By the way, if there are any questions or comments, feel free to interrupt at any time. Yeah. Now, if we look through the paper, it's a lot of text, a lot of tables, numbers, there is a striking absence of anything visual to present the results. There's only one visual aid, and it's here, and it's pretty effective. So the task given to the visualization class or the research methods class was to use something more innovative, right, to present the data visually and using some more innovative visualization techniques. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So here is the coursework from the research methods class. The submissions are limited to 2 pages. It's a big class. It's like 225 students around there. Right? So we have a task description and a little bit of a description of the data. So in each row of the data set, this is what the data set looks like. It has each row has a participant number, a type of diet, a gender, age group, and then the environmental effects associated with that person, right? Greenhouse gas emissions, agricultural land use, water scarcity, and so on. So their first task is just to understand the data, right? Because it takes some effort just to understand what it is they're looking at. So we give them a copy of the research paper. There's a link to the actual data set. And they actually published some R scripts too to generate figures that they never showed. And then we asked them to do better than Professor C. So Professor C is a fictional character that generates bar charts, pie charts, and line charts. And we say, can you do anything better than the typical bar charts, line charts, and pie charts? And then they get to select a tool. So we give them a bunch of tools to select from. And then we ask them to do maybe some pre-processing, some optional pre-processing of the data. And then they have to fill out a template for their submission. The image or images that they generate, the name of the visual design, the tool they use, the diet groups that they're looking at, the variables that they're displaying, then the visual mappings, right? They have to describe, for example, what color is mapped to, shape, position, size. If there's a hierarchy, they have to describe that too. And then they're asked to supply some unique observation, some observation that's non-trivial, that's couldn't be guessed just using common knowledge, or can't be guessed just by looking at the numbers. And then if they want, they can supply a screen capture demo which shows maybe animation or interaction if their visual design is interactive. And then if they produced any source code, they can also supply that. And we ask them to do better than Professor C. We give them some examples to think about, and so on. And then some extra help if they want extra help. And then there's the assessment criteria. Any questions about the coursework? Does the coursework make sense? So I guess I thought I would just show some of the good ones. And that would be kind of a fun exercise. Some of them are very good.
Well, just a quick question.
Yep.
When in the data set,
Yep.
I'm just trying to get online, but
Yep.
and how have they come up with the estimates for the impact? So you've got, I guess, participants that have given a survey, and then there's kind of a linkage to some external data set. Is that to kind of infer?
That's right. They link multiple data sets together. So they start with a survey, and the survey is, what are your eating habits? Like, how often do you eat meat? You know, what does your diet consist of, and so on. Then they link it to another data set. So the next data set is a list of food and its environmental impact. So you can quantify environmental impact based on food. That's even linked to another data set, which is ingredients, you can quantify the impact of ingredients on the environment. So it's actually like starts with people, then it goes to food, and then it goes to ingredients, and then environmental impact. Yeah, so it's quite a complicated story, actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just seen it there.
By the way, if there are questions on Teams, can someone let me know? Because I'm not looking at the Teams chat. So I don't know if people ask questions or make
Very
comments.
rarely.
Okay.
Although I'm sure Sam and Kesey are thinking up some now.
I'm shocked.
One thing.
Yeah.
I understand that data trail, but I mean, I think some is it some of the Welsh Marches, Shropshire, they're thinking of they're establishing a carbon neutral, or they claim this carbon neutral dairy farm. So I wonder, as those things evolve, I wonder how reliable those data will be. Do you know what I mean? Because it's going to take, obviously, I imagine it's based on the average impact of a dairy cow, which is fine, but won't that in time will challenge some of those accuracy?
I would recommend just having a look at the paper where they collect the data study. I don't know the answer to that.
No, fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we've done lots of work on these sort of data sets and we'll link to some of these sort of things and label products ourselves, so you can do some machine learning on top, but you need that. Just like, I think it was when I was Boots and talked to them about sandwiches, and I went, so this is a sandwich, so I went, that won't be the sandwich. But it's on the box, it's just an estimate, but like, in the answer, there's so much noise, you just do the best you can. Anyway.
So the uncertainty is part of the data set, actually.
Yeah.
So they include the standard deviations and the uncertainty. Yeah. And that could be part of the exercise. The visualization exercise could be to show the uncertainty in the data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at some of these. How about tree maps? How is everybody with tree maps in the audience? Is it a familiar thing? Is it common here?
Yeah, it's for me.
Okay, good. Is there anybody unfamiliar with tree maps? One person? Anybody else? Two? Okay. Should I explain it? What a tree map is? So a tree map has a few properties. One property is that it's space filling. So it tries to use the entire screen space to distribute the display of the data, to occupy all of the screen space. That's one of the properties that it has. Another property is that it is hierarchical, so you can visualize hierarchical data. Right, so in this, it might make sense to show kind of a more common tree map than this one first, like one that everybody is more familiar with, or maybe not so familiar with. Let me see. This is a good example of a tree map. Has anybody seen this one before, this tree map?
Oh, yeah.
This is a really good one. I think this is my favorite one, I would say. So you can see it's trying to occupy the whole screen space, right? This is a visualization of the S&P 500 and the trading that occurs on the S&P 500 on a daily basis, right? So each rectangle is mapped to a company, right, a ticker symbol. And then the size of that rectangle is mapped to the volume of trading that day. So if there's a large volume, right, the rectangle will get bigger and vice versa. And then the color is mapped to the price of the shares. So if the price is going down, then it's red, and if it's going up, it's green, right? And this is an interaction, so we can use on mouse over information if we want details, the details about the exact numbers, the exact volume, the exact share price, and so on. And what's nice about this is you can get an overview of every company, 500 companies in just 1 second, right? You know immediately what's happening, right? It's very, very fast, right? Another property is that it's hierarchical, so the stocks are grouped together into a hierarchy. I've messed this up a little bit by scrolling around too much. Oops. Okay, there we are. So all the technology stocks are put together in a group. This is the group of technology stocks. And then that parent is subdivided into children, software infrastructure, consumer electronics, and so on, and other subgroups. Right, so it's a hierarchical visual design. Does that make sense? Fast introduction to tree maps. And they're interactive. And you can zoom in and out of the hierarchy. So this is another tree map, but this is on the sources of food data set, right? So at the top we have all of the data, right? The biggest rectangle, and then that's subdivided into different children, high meat consumption, other, pescatarian, vegetarian, and vegan. And then the size, there's a redundancies here, but anyway, size is mapped to environmental impact, and then the color is mapped to mean land use. But what this person has done is they've also subdivided the different diet groups into age and gender to look for any patterns there, right? And you can see, just like in the S&P 500 example, the big rectangles are usually in the top left, and the small rectangles are usually in the bottom right. So they've subdivided into different age groups like elderly, senior adult, and mature adult. And they've subdivided again into male and female, right, into these rectangles. And we can see, for example, that age is correlated with diet and environmental impact. There is some relationship there. Right. And clearly we can also see the relationship between food choice and impact on the mean land required for that dietary or that food choice. Right. There's a description of all the tools that are used to create the tree map. These are the mappings, right? If anybody's interested in the mappings, right? It starts with diet categories, then age group, then gender. There is a special algorithm, right, to generate these tree maps. Special node positioning algorithm, and then here's the unique observation. Right? The tree map allows us to detect a pattern within the high meat consumption group where the environmental impact is indicated by mean land use. Right? Does not uniformly increase with age, and so on. And then there is a screen capture demo. And there is it safe for me to turn on the sound?
Computer Science at the University of Nottingham. Our study utilizes a comprehensive data set from the University of Oxford, analyzed using Python and Plotly Express within Google Colab.
Is that
In this
audible?
section, we start by importing essential Python libraries such as Pandas, NumPy, Seaborn, Matplotlly Express. These tools are fundamental for data manipulation, visualization, and analysis in our project. Here, we load our data set from a CSV file hosted online. Using Pandas, we read the data into a data frame, giving us our initial look at the data set as we print the first few rows. Next, we conduct a correlation analysis to identify any highly correlated variables. This analysis helps us avoid multicollinearity in our dataset, ensuring the validity of our visualizations. We use Seaborn to create a heat map visually representing these correlations. After identifying highly correlated pairs, we selectively remove redundant columns from our dataset, retaining only those necessary for our analysis. We then define functions to categorize diet and age groups, simplifying our dataset into more manageable groups. These categorizations are applied to the dataset, transforming raw data into meaningful categories. Using Plotly Express, we create a tree map to visualize the environmental impact of different diets across various demographics. The tree map uses color and size to depict the mean land use associated with each diet and demographic group, making it easy to identify patterns at a glance. Finally, we interact with the tree map. It demonstrates the dynamic capabilities of our visualization, allowing users to explore different aspects of the data in detail. As you can see, hovering over each segment reveals specific data points, such as the diet group, which provides deeper insights into our study. Our analysis revealed surprising trends, particularly within the high meat consumption group. Contrary to expectations, older age groups did not always show.
Okay. Any comments or questions about that example?
What are your thoughts on the color scheme?
Thoughts on the color scheme? I guess it's okay. I would give it an okay rating, but I'm sure that there are better choices. I think I would choose more colors, maybe one shade for each category, for example. But it's okay. Like, I would give it an okay score. I wouldn't give it like 100% amazing, but so color scheme I would say that's kind of an unsolved problem. We have many solutions to the color schemes, but we don't have a general consensus on exactly which one is the best. If you know what I mean. But we have lots of different options. Yeah.
I'm sure that the possibilities are endless here, but intuitively, maybe some would associate red with more land use and then blue with less.
Correct. Yes. Exactly. Yes, that would be one possibility. Yeah. So
-1 mark from you and Georgie for the red.
yes, the color can definitely be optimized. This is not an optimal choice of color. Yeah.
Oh, just I was going to say, not traditionally, we kind of very limitedly keep these talks which up to 4 o'clock.
Okay, that's fine.
But you know, we started late, so if you want to carry on, obviously, all good.
It's up to you guys.
Other amazing stuff to show us from the students, just because visualization is really interesting for us.
Yeah, it seems like that.
You don't feel like you need to.
Yeah. It's interesting to us too. Let me see what another good example might be. I mean, everybody knows probably what a scatter plot matrix is, I guess. So there is a very good scatter plot matrix example. This one combines tree maps with geospace. This one combines tree maps with parallel coordinates plots. And then we have one that uses radar charts, scatter plot matrices, and that's the one we just looked at. Any votes on which one we should look at? Anybody else? The geospatial one, yes, this one is interesting. So this student tried to link the data set to another geospatial data set, and then look at the food choices based on region of the UK, and then map that to the environmental impact. And this is what they got, actually. So they looked at northern England, right? And they found that northern England has the highest consumption of meat. And then they have the London meat group, the Scotland high meat diet, the Wales high meat diet, the north of England lower meat diet, Scotland lower meat diet, and so on. So the size of the rectangle represents the number of people that fit that category. Well, we should be able to see all the details here, actually. So they split it into these diet groups, and then they looked at greenhouse gas emissions. Color is mapped to greenhouse gas emissions. Darker blue means higher greenhouse. Yeah, so again, the color is not optimal here. Yeah. Each block represents a different diet type within a particular region of the UK. The size of each block represents the scaled GHG emissions. Larger blocks indicate higher emissions, and so on. Position is the map to, well, that's defined by the node layout algorithm. So a unique observation, London has a higher percentage of vegan and vegetarian diets, potentially showcasing the economic disparity between London and the rest of the country. Each region has significant high meat diets, which contribute to large greenhouse gas emissions. Younger women make up a large population of vegan and vegetarian diets. This is further explored in the video. The video for this one is quite good.
I'm just going to use some of this time to help explain the methodology behind how I
It's
scale the
quite
data up
a
to
good one.
match the UK population. I found an interesting YouGov dataset that contained dietary choices of Brits. This YouGov dataset contained regional splits for different diets as shown in the Excel field. There was potential to get a wider UK greenhouse gas emission impact of different diets, which would be a rough estimate but potentially make for some interesting insights. Some of the dataset variables were merged like meat 100 and meat 50 to a category called high meat. This was because the YouGov dataset didn't contain 3 different meat eater categories. So to calculate the per capita impact, we derived the average greenhouse gas emission associated with each diet. And to scale up to the potential regional impact, you would take, for example, 4% of people in London are vegan, and London has a population of around 8 million, so there are around 320,000 vegans in London, which is obviously just an estimate. And then we would multiply the per capita GHG emissions of vegan, so that's 320,000 to get to the total emissions from vegans in London. So I'm just going to quickly show some of the data that I found interesting. In this clip of the original data before scaling to the UK population, it can be seen that low emission diets seem to be mainly comprised of young people, but more specifically young women. These are diets such as vegan and vegetarian. In this clip of the edited data after scaling, it was surprising to see how, despite being a smaller population than the north of England, London still punches above its weight in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. It can be further seen here that London has some of the better diets associated with lower greenhouse gas emissions. These are diets like pescatarian and lower meat diets among vegan and vegetarian. Thank you for listening.
So that's a really good one. Maybe we have time for one more?
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Okay, the radar chart one is quite nice, actually. So that's a pretty clear visual design and depiction of the effect of food choice on environmental factors, right? It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So in the innermost polygon, we have the vegan group, and then underneath that we have the veggie group, and then the medium meat group, low meat, and high meat groups. And each axis is mapped to one of those environmental impacts, right? I guess everybody here has seen radar charts before. So yeah, that's a nice one right there. And then there's another version where they try to investigate gender, the impact of gender. So you can see for each group there are 2 rings actually, and not too surprisingly, the males have worse diets, or let's say higher impact diets. And then this one is age group. Age group, I think, is an interesting finding. Like, that's not something that I didn't think was so obvious, that the age group and the oldest age group generally has the highest impact on the environment, which is something I definitely didn't know before we started this. I thought was really interesting. Let's see if there's a video for this one. Let's see what they say in the video.
Welcome. Let's set sail on an exciting visualization journey. This our shiny dashboard was developed to visually explore the environmental effects of various dietary patterns in the UK, drawing inspiration from a related research paper. The dashboard presents 3 radar plots. The first captures the environmental impacts of different diets, while the subsequent plots delve into variations by gender and age groups. The initial radar plot reveals that high meat diet had the strongest adverse environmental impact, considering all variables. Water usage and scarcity higher for fish-based than low-meat diet groups. The second plot examines the differences between genders. It shows that, on average, males tend to have a slightly higher adverse environmental impact across all dietary groups. Although water usage is nearly identical for both genders in every diet category, other environmental metrics show notable differences. In the third radar plot, age-related variations in environmental impact are displayed. For meat-based diets, older individuals are associated with higher land use, while younger people contribute more significantly to eutrophication levels. In contrast, for those following fish-based, vegan, and vegetarian diets, older age groups show a greater impact on water scarcity. Thank you. Have a great day.
Kunal's voice is very memorable.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
I think that's good enough for today. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, thanks a lot for talking. Covering officially it was Gregor, who's in Thailand. Is Gregor in Thailand? Bastard.
Was anybody upset by the absence of slides?
No.
Is it okay? I gave a talk once with no slides, and I got a complaint afterwards. At one time, yeah, they said you didn't have slides. We didn't like that.
Well, actually, weirdly, we found like visualizing stuff on a video wall where you can see the bezels because they cost too much to not get the bezels is very different when you do a normal projected PowerPoint slide because you've got super high res, but you've got also these natural chunks in the screen. So we're still trying to work out the best way of showing stuff on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool. We do lots of work, huge amount of work from epidemiological to food, where we use machine learning, but we always visualize stuff at the end. So yeah, it'd be cool to chat.
That would be great. That would be really great. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Any questions? Everyone wants to go to the pub?
Has anybody seen this before? This paper that was published? No. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Through Peter Scarborough, we got access to the original data that Michael Clark's paper did estimates with all ingredients. So I did talk to Scarborough to get access to Michael Clark because he's
Nice.
really responsive.
Nice.
So we have the data, the original 57,000 products in UK retail.
Great.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean,